Sometime around 2600 BC, a city of 40,000 people had running water drains and sewers. No empire forced it into existence. No single king claimed credit for building it. The Indus Valley civilization just built it, quietly, systematically at scale, and for a long time the rest of the world had no idea any of this had existed. The cities of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa sat in what is now Pakistan and northwest India. They were not small settlements. Mohenjo-daro alone may have housed between 20 and 50,000 people. That number is debated, but the physical evidence beneath the ground is not. When British surveyors first documented the ruins in the 1920s, they found something that confused them. The streets were laid out in a grid. The bricks were standardized, almost eerily so, and running beneath nearly every major street was a covered drainage channel. Not a ditch, not an open gutter. A covered, maintained, brick-lined system designed to carry waste out of the city. For 2600 BC, this was not the expected discovery. Most ancient cities of that era handled waste the way you might expect. Badly. Open trenches, middens, rivers used simultaneously for drinking and disposal. The Indus cities did something different. And understanding how requires looking at the smallest unit first, the house. A typical house at Mohenjo-daro was built around a central courtyard made of fired brick. Not sun-dried brick. Fired, which meant harder, more water-resistant, and more durable under monsoon rains. The distinction matters because the entire plumbing system depended on water not destroying the material holding it. Inside the house, many rooms had a dedicated bathing area, a flat, sloped platform of tight-fitted brick. The slope directed water toward a small outlet in the wall. That outlet connected to a clay pipe, or sometimes a brick channel, running through the house wall. From there, the water moved into a street drain. This is the chain. Bather, platform, wall outlet, house drain, street drain, main sewer. Each link in that chain was engineered to prevent backflow, pooling, and collapse. The street drains were covered with fitted brick or stone slabs, heavy enough to hold foot traffic above. Inspection holes were built in at intervals, openings that allowed workers to clear blockages without dismantling the whole channel. That detail tells you something important. Somebody was maintaining this system, regularly. As a civic function, this wasn't infrastructure built once and forgotten. It required ongoing labor, probably organized at the city level. Who organized it remains one of the larger open questions in Indus scholarship. There are no palace inscriptions here. No royal decrees ordering the drains cleaned. The Indus script itself still hasn't been deciphered, which means we're reading the civilization almost entirely through its physical remains. What those remains show is a society that invested heavily in civic infrastructure rather than monumental ego projects. No pyramids at Mohenjo-daro, no towering victory columns, just very good drains and very straight streets. There is something quietly remarkable about a civilization that apparently prioritized sanitation over spectacle. The Great Bath at Mohenjo-daro is one of the most studied structures in South Asian archaeology. It sits on the elevated mound of the city, a large rectangular pool roughly 12 meters long and 7 meters wide. The floor was laid in finely fitted brick, sealed with a layer of natural tar, bitumen, to prevent leakage. Changing rooms lined the sides. A large drain ran out from the bottom of the pool. What it was used for is genuinely uncertain. Ritual bathing is the most common interpretation. Trade or civic assembly is another. The honest answer is that we don't fully know. The script hasn't helped us, and no texts explain the purpose. But the engineering is unambiguous. Whoever designed it understood waterproofing, drainage, and load-bearing construction simultaneously. The bitumen seal is worth pausing on. Bitumen occurs naturally in parts of the region, but sourcing, transporting, and applying it required organization. This wasn't improvised. It was planned material procurement for a specific engineering function. The same logic applies to the standardized bricks used throughout both cities. Archaeologists found that bricks across Harappan sites follow a near-identical ratio, roughly 1 to 2 to 4, width to height to length. That consistency across hundreds of kilometers of territory suggests either a shared standard, a shared production system, or both. A brick that deviates from the ratio would not fit cleanly into walls or channels built elsewhere to the same spec. Standardization in building materials is not glamorous. But it is what made the plumbing system physically possible at scale. You cannot build tight-jointed drains out of irregular bricks. The water finds every gap. The Indus builders understood this, whether by training, tradition, or deliberate regulation. They produced bricks that fit. The clay pipes found at various sites show similar care. Pipe sections were designed to slot into one another. The joining end was slightly wider, allowing the next section to seat inside it. A basic taper joint. This reduced leakage at connections, which is exactly where leakage tends to happen in any pipe system. It also meant pipes could be extended or replaced in sections without rebuilding an entire run. Civilian infrastructure thinking, not ceremonial engineering. Functional, repairable, modular design. The water coming into homes had to come from somewhere, and at Mohenjo-daro that meant wells. Hundreds of them. Estimates vary, but archaeologists have identified over 700 possible well sites across the city. That density is striking. It suggests wells were not communal luxuries but distributed infrastructure, accessible across neighborhoods. Some wells were built into private homes. Others stood in what appear to be public spaces between buildings. The well shafts were lined with wedge-shaped bricks, curved to follow the circular wall as it descended. This is not obvious engineering. A circular shaft lined with rectangular bricks would crack under ground pressure over time. The wedge brick solved that problem by distributing lateral pressure evenly around the curve. Whoever designed these wells had either worked through the failure modes empirically or inherited knowledge from someone who had. Water drawn from the well moved through the house, was used, and then exited through the drain system. The entire flow, in through the well, out through the drain, was directional and deliberate. This directionality is what separates a plumbing system from simply having water nearby. It is the difference between a river and a pipe. One flows where gravity decides, the other flows where you tell it. At the city level, the drain system was hierarchical. Small house drains fed into larger street drains. Street drains fed into main channels running along the primary roads, which were the widest and deepest. These main channels carried everything toward the city's edge, likely emptying into soak pits or natural drainage beyond the settlement. The soak pits, rubble-filled chambers that allowed liquid to percolate into the soil, have been found at several sites. This is a solved engineering problem that many later civilizations would independently reinvent centuries afterward. The Harappans were not working from a manual. They were building from accumulated experience and, apparently, from civic consensus. One detail that sometimes gets overlooked. Many of the street-level drain covers were removable, not permanently fixed. Designed to come up for cleaning, then be replaced. That implies a maintenance workforce, a maintenance schedule, and some mechanism for organizing both. We don't know if this was voluntary, assigned by neighborhood, or administered by some governing body. But the infrastructure itself demands that someone was doing the work. Drains that are never cleaned stop working quickly. The fact that this system functioned across what appears to be several centuries suggests the maintenance was real and consistent. Several centuries of working urban sanitation. That is not an accident of construction. That is a sustained social commitment. By comparison, ancient Rome, rightly celebrated for its aqueducts and sewers, built its cloaca maxima around 600 BC. That is roughly 2,000 years after the Indus drainage systems were already operating. This is not a competition, but it is a useful corrective to the assumption that sophisticated infrastructure was a later invention. The popular image of the ancient world is often one of mud and disease and improvised survival. Mohenjo-daro complicates that image in a specific and physical way, not through myth, but through brick and pipe and drain. There is also a misconception worth addressing directly. The Indus Valley civilization is sometimes described as mysterious simply because it left no decoded writing. But mystery is not the same as absence of knowledge. We know a great deal from the built environment alone. We know they planned cities before building them. The grid layout required that decision to be made in advance. We know they had access to trade networks. Indus artifacts have been found as far away as Mesopotamia. We know they understood material science well enough to select, fire, and standardize brick at a regional level. And we know, from the drains themselves, that they believed clean water management was worth the expense of maintaining it. What we don't know, why the cities declined after roughly 1900 BC, is a separate and genuinely contested question. Shifting river courses is one hypothesis. Climate change affecting monsoon patterns is another. Both may have contributed. There is no single collapse event in the record. The cities seem to have been gradually abandoned rather than suddenly destroyed. The plumbing, in a way, outlasted the people using it. Drains don't disappear quickly when cities empty. They sit in the ground, intact, waiting to be found by someone 4,000 years later with a trowel and a measuring tape. When those archaeologists in the 1920s began mapping the site, the drains were still structurally coherent. Brick-lined, covered, jointed, still following the same lines they were laid in around 2500 BC. There is something in that which is difficult to fully account for with purely functional language. A civilization that no one in the modern world remembered, that left no decoded text explaining itself, had nevertheless built something precise enough to survive 4 millennia underground, still recognizable as engineering. The details in this video draw from archaeological fieldwork at Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and related sites. Some interpretations remain open and new excavations continue to revise what we think we know about this civilization. What the ground has given us so far is already enough to reconsider some old assumptions about who was building what and when.